Hello, dear ones. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. This is the first time I've given a satsang. I've certainly given lots of spiritual talks. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. So first and foremost, I'd like to be crystal clear. I'm no guru. I'm not a liberated being. I'm a yogi. I've made progress on the path. I'm an ordained minister, for whatever that's worth. Universalist, spiritual minister. And the reason I say this is on the spiritual path, discernment is everything. And who you decide to trust, and even more so, who you decide to take on as your guru, or like, oh, that person's telling the truth. It's a very deep, deep thing to say, oh, that person's telling the truth, or oh, I accept that person as my teacher or my guru. And I'm not seeking that from anyone. I just hope to share what's been helpful to me, and I hope in sharing my understanding it's helpful. Because the sad state of the 21st century is there's a lot of false teaching out there. And maybe that's been going on all throughout history, and we didn't have the internet, so we didn't know how bad it was. But who you believe, and I say this to myself too, because I have to check myself every day. There's so much spiritual information out there. Who you listen deeply to, in essence, who you take in what they're saying, it has a profound impact. Spiritual teaching is like computer software. It runs your computer, and it runs your life. You know, it has a profound impact on one's view of reality, how you navigate your life, your value system. So you have to be very, very careful. And when I say you, everything I'm saying to all of you, I'm saying right back to myself. Because those of you who've been to this channel before know that a large part of my journey has been recovering from what I call fake non-duality. My mistake was I believed people who weren't worthy of being believed. That's it. I said, oh, that person's enlightened, or oh, that person knows the truth. I'm going to really listen to them. I'm going to not just take them seriously, but take their words as truth. And if that person is not a valid guide, it'll get you in a lot of trouble. It got me in a lot of trouble. I speak from experience, and one of them being a Neo-Advaita teacher, a couple actually. So welcome. Wow, I have 5 live viewers. I'm very honored to have your time and attention, and I hope it's of service. So my first teaching was to be careful who you believe. So let's take a few minutes and reflect on that and see if you believe that's accurate. Don't take my word for it. In essence, what I'm saying is who you believe. The believed ideas have a profound impact. But don't believe me. Spend a little time, please. Let's check in and see if that's a valid teaching, a valid pointer. I'm not saying disbelieve everything you hear, but I'm saying it's very important to be very discerning. So let's spend a few minutes and tune in, reflect deeply, listen deeply inside of ourselves. Said another way, one of the fundamentals of non-duality is that the truth lives inside of us. It's already there. On a certain level, we already know it. On a certain level. Let's not get into that too deeply. But regardless, that God lives within us. And so there is something within us that knows the truth and can recognize truth from BS, from not truth. So let's reflect for a few minutes. Let's get in contact with that and see if the first pointer I've offered makes sense. And actually, I'd like to share a meditative technique that I do often that really works for me. If you're able, please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in a relaxed upright position, closing your eyes, and then having the will, the intention to receive the grace of God, the grace of Guru. Not me. I'm not the Guru, but the grace of that guy and other such great gurus who are always with us. Or just the energy of God that peels away the blockages to knowing the truth. And observe your body, having the intention to take that in. Noticing what you feel, noticing if that resonates as true, what I said, how important it is to discern. Ah. We'll just sit for another minute or so. Aha, we have a master among us. Miriam Rose. Hello. After over 30 years of spiritual inquiry, I now listen only to my own intuition and heart. Amen. Alleluia. Thank you for that. That'll keep you safe on the spiritual path. So, welcome, Yoshi. The next thing I'd like to do is just read a quote of Ramana's. One of my favorites. The self is a powerful hidden magnet. It draws us gradually to itself. The self is a powerful hidden magnet. It gradually draws us to itself. So for those who are more theistically inclined, that would be God. God is the powerful hidden magnet that gradually draws us to itself. And so poetic, whether you approach it from a theistic point of view or from a non-dual point of view, that the truth is like a magnet pulling us pulling us towards itself. Ramana was quite poetic in his capacity to express truth. I appreciate that so deeply about him. I'm noticing over here the mind has just gotten very still. And how delicious that stillness is. Someone recently asked about practicing self-inquiry and this idea of turning away from the world and basically staying in your house and just inquiring all day. Well, that's actually not really what Ramana taught. So first of all, I don't recommend self-inquiry to anyone until they've met the qualifications. I'm going to look those up. I meant to have that ready. Well, I'm just going to have to go by memory. They're not appearing. So Ramana said it like this. You must have one-pointedness of mind and utter detachment from the world, or next to complete loss of interest in the world, or this very deep sense of wanting liberation from samsara, and hence having lack of interest in the world. And to have a predominantly sattvic mind. A predominantly sattvic mind is what just happened to me there a minute ago. Hopefully it happened to other people. Just where your mind is, maybe it's not empty, but it's primarily quiet and chill and mellow. So if you don't have those things, self-inquiry isn't the practice for you. And according to Ramana, but you can start your own spiritual path or start your own religion and let us know how it goes. I tried it and it took me to the brink of suicide. And I've shared many times on this channel why it is, because it has to do with spiritual bypass. If you're doing self-inquiry, but the mind isn't predominantly silent, then you're basically just bypassing. It's the same thing it's like taking a drink of liquor. It pushes stuff down, and pushing stuff down doesn't work. It works in the short term. In the long term, it's very dangerous. So, regardless of what the practice is, whether you are ready for self-inquiry or whether it's japa or bhakti or mindfulness, the goal is to strive for it throughout the day. Ramana talked about doing self-inquiry constantly. And that's why you need to have one-pointedness of mind and a quiet mind first. Because if your mind's all over the place, so if your mind's like, oh, and then your body's like taking care of business, You're not going to be able to do self-inquiry. Sure, you can do it for a minute here or there. But self-inquiry isn't like, a relaxation meditation, do it for 20 minutes twice a day. It's something to do constantly until it becomes effortless. And that's why Ramana didn't recommend it to everyone. In fact, he said it's only for the most mature or ripe souls. So now I'm going to take a look at the Upadesa Saram. The only really comprehensive thing that Ramana ever wrote. He wrote some hymns to Arunachala, and he wrote this very short book called Upadesa Saram, which I forget even what it means. It means instruction. I believe it means instruction from the teacher, but I could be wrong about that. So the first line is, action yields fruit, for so the Lord ordains it. How can action be the Lord? It is insentient. So again, action yields fruit, for so the Lord ordains it. How can action be the Lord? It is insentient. So my understanding is that there are certain philosophical schools in Hinduism that say that karma is God. And Ramana was dispensing with that right away by saying, no, it's insentient. It doesn't have consciousness. It's like a machine. And look at that. He says, for so the Lord ordained it. So one of the things that's really challenging about the modern non-duality scene is it kind of denies God. It's kind of this thing of like, let's just achieve this state. It completely takes out the Hindu worldview of God. Here Ramana calls God the Lord. Let me see what the Sanskrit. Sorry, my Sanskrit isn't up to par, but it's pretty standard in Hinduism to call God the Lord, meaning the ruler. But without this context of karma, without the context of reincarnation, non-duality doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really work. I don't know if Ramana was anticipating the Neo-Advaita movement by starting off the one thing he wrote, the textbook. The Upadesa Saram is a textbook on self-inquiry, on jnana yoga, knowledge of the self. And maybe he anticipated the Neo-Advaita movement and he started off with karma and God. But so let's move on to the next verse. The fruit of action passes, but the action leaves behind seed of further action, leading to an endless ocean of action, not at all to moksha. Whoa. So the fruit of action passes, meaning, if I drink something, I receive a fruit from it. Okay, so if I'm thirsty, I drink water. The fruit of that action is the satiation of the thirst. But, and the satiation of the thirst passes, right? There's no action we can take that has a permanent effect, has permanent fruit, right? Like you do something and it has a result. That result passes. However, the action, Ramana says, and I concur, I concur, that's funny, like I need to concur with Ramana. But the action leaves behind seed of further action. So, let's say I glug, glug, glug the water down, it satiates the thirst. The satiation of the thirst vanishes, but the enjoyment of glugging the water down plants a seed for further action. It plants a seed for a craving of that experience. Because it feels good. You're thirsty, you drink water, it's like, especially if you like chug it down, it's a pleasurable experience. Now, here's where karma is so tricky. The result passes, the enjoyment passes, the satiation of thirst passes, but it plants that action, the fruit passes, but it plants a seed of craving and attachment and wanting more of that pleasure. Eek, 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 eek. And so the final sentence in that verse was, leading to an endless ocean of action, not at all to moksha. Meaning, if you do action, it leads to more action, which leads to more action, which leads to more action, which doesn't lead to moksha or liberation. Now, again, of course, Ramana was a Hindu, and he concurred that there is such a phenomenon as reincarnation. He had some interesting things to say about it. So that's the second verse. So what to do about this? And it's really funny. It's not funny. It's amazing that Ramana starts this way, because this very issue is the whole issue of the Bhagavad Gita. The whole issue of the Bhagavad Gita is centered around this very question. Well, if action leads to more action, in essence, action leads to craving for more action, what do? Do you just do nothing? That's what Arjuna wants to do in the Bhagavad Gita. He wants to do nothing. As instructed, no, that's not the way. And here's what Ramana said. Disinterested, this is the third verse, disinterested action surrendered to the Lord purifies the mind and points the way to moksha. I've also seen a translation, is supportive of moksha. So again, disinterested action surrendered to the Lord purifies the mind and points the way, or is supportive of moksha, liberation. So what does that mean? So two things Ramana mentions. Disinterested action and action surrendered to the Lord. Disinterested action in Hinduism means not doing something seeking pleasure, doing something because it's your duty. And or surrender to God means, okay, God, I'm going to do this, but I'm doing this out of service to you. This is the essence of karma yoga. People think karma yoga means service, which it does, but it means so much more than that. It means an attitude, dedicating your life to the service of God and not seeking anything back from it. A great example is, and then training your mind, literally training your mind, as you're washing the dishes. Oh Lord, these aren't my dishes, they're your dishes. I'm seeking to keep your world clean. Or oh Lord, I have the duty to clean this dishes, whether it's because, you're a parent or whatnot, or, it's, and so I do my duty, as in part of, the idea of karma yoga is we're all interdependent. So, oh Lord, I'm seeking to fulfill my duty as husband, wife, mother, father, child, as part of your world, as part of your society, learning to dedicate all of our actions. Because the thing is when we do something, we're seeking something, right? Like everything we do, we're seeking something. But in the previous verse, Ramana said that gets us in trouble. That action plants the seed for an endless ocean of action. So this is the way out of it. Renunciation of action is impossible except for the highest of yogis. It's even really impossible for the greatest saints. You have to be like super Olympic yogi to renounce action. Because that includes eating. So here's Ramana Maharshi's book on how to attain self-realization. And let's review for a moment. He starts with karma and God and points out that God is above karma. Then he expresses what's the problem with karma just means action. What's the problem with action? Well, two things. One, action only brings temporary results, right? Like, chugging the water, yes, it brings me pleasure and happiness, but only temporarily. Like if it brought me eternal happiness, then I would just chug water. I'll just do it once and I'd have eternal happiness. Or you get my point, I hope, that everything we do, we're seeking something, but it only gives us a temporary result. And worse, it plants the seed for attachment, for future action leading to, as Ramana said, an endless ocean of action. So what to do about this? Disinterested action, surrender to the Lord. It's a very poetic way of describing what karma yoga is about. You can read the Bhagavad Gita for more insight into karma yoga. Let's see if I'm going to go any further today. Yeah, I'll read a little more. Verse 4. This is certain. Worship, praise, and meditation, being work of body, speech, and mind, are steps for orderly ascent. Ramana was such a genius. So now he's starting to talk about bhakti yoga. And here he points out kind of 3 levels of bhakti yoga: worship, praise, and meditation. I don't know if praise is the most accurate, but I'm not a Sanskrit scholar. I've just seen other translations that might feel. So worship, things like arti or traditional Hindu, going to temple, going to a service. Praise, something such as bhajans or praise isn't, the Sanskrit actually says japa. Repeating a mantra or but mantras have to be done with a certain feeling. You can't just repeat the mantra. It's a whole science in and of itself. And meditation. Here, I believe he means meditation on God, whether that be God with form or without form. And just Yeah, he talks about that a little later, what he means by meditation. I'll leave that for now. So, oh my God, Ramana Maharshi is teaching us how to worship. Who would have thought? I thought there was nothing to do, that I am the self. Or I thought I was supposed to just inquire. Yeah, not according to Ramana, unless you're ready, unless you're at that point. So, I think I'll pause there. I'd like to thank everyone who joined in today. Thank you so much, Marion. The Bhagavad Gita is the great gem. I could not agree more. Yes, Ramana's teachings are much misrepresented. Misrepresented. Yes, that's why we're gathered here today to mourn the misrepresentation of Ramana's teachings. So let's just take a little time in silence and tune in. You know, the whole thing with part of the piece with karma yoga is the recognition, and Ramana hinted at it, that nothing here can give us actual happiness. Nothing here, no object or action can really give us happiness. And that's really the beginning. I want to say it's the beginning, but it's a fundamental. Now, that doesn't mean to stop doing everything that brings you permanent happiness. No action or object can bring you permanent happiness. It's like spirituality 101. Happiness is an inside job, right? That's the cliche version. But that doesn't mean to just stop doing everything. That's not what Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma, aka Hinduism, it's not what is suggested. Many people came to Ramana and wanted to become sannyasis, and he didn't recommend that for most people. I tried for years to get myself ready to be a sannyasi. 27 years. And I finally accepted that, okay, I'm not meant to be a sannyasi in this lifetime or anytime soon. Who knows? Thank you. Thank you, Yoshi. Thank you, Marion. I'm glad this was fruitful. Hopefully we've planted some good seeds here. I'd like to close how I began. The self is a powerful hidden magnet. It draws us gradually to itself. And since this translation, right now, I so wish I knew Sanskrit a little better. Actually, one moment. I'm going to check something real quick. Okay. I have my copy of Upadesa Saram that has a little better explanation of Sanskrit. I just want to check something. Yeah, sorry, my Sanskrit is not up to I know 100 words or so. My Sanskrit is not up to it. So again, the self is a powerful hidden magnet. It draws us gradually to itself. And let's just say, same, the Lord, God, is a powerful hidden magnet. It draws us to itself. That's part of what grace is. Ramana spoke so much about grace. That God, the Self, the Lord, is drawing us to it. And unlike modern Christian and Islamic thought, universal reconciliation is built into Hinduism. Most schools, there's one school that says no, but primarily Hinduism, one of the fundamental ideas is that everyone will experience moksha. So let's take some comfort in that. God, the Self, the Lord, is drawing us to Him, her, itself. And everyone will find liberation. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks to that guy for being the amazing being that he was and is, and for his very clear teachings. And I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful evening. Namaste.